Pesach, in a very real sense, is Jewish Independence Day. The concept of Independence Day very often is one nation is freeing itself from the bonds of another nation, or at least the bonds of a previous regime that has fallen into disfavor. In the case of Israel, it's the exodus from Egypt. The first time the Chumash uses the word people, in regards to Israel, is while they are still in Israel, and it's when their numbers have become too large to just simply reckon them as an extended family. It actually uses the term that they spread out and they became atzma'it, independent. They could kind of do the things that they would like to do. Less subservience. But the day on the Jewish calendar is when the children of Israel went out from Egypt itself, and the holiday is called in the Siddur Zaman Cherutenu, the day of our freedom. Now, there is something about the day a country becomes free from domination that reckons itself as its Independence Day. It could be that the Chumash noted this in the human personality, or it could be that all Independence Days are an extension of Pesach, which was the first. There are various ways nations will celebrate their national day. Parades and fireworks being very popular. In the case of the Jews, we sit down and have a Seder Pesach. It's a festive meal, and it's actually a biblical commandment from Shemos 13:8, where it says, "And you will tell your son on that day, saying, it is because of this that Hashem did for me when I went out from Egypt." Now this is talking about, or talking to the children of Israel while they are in Egypt, and it's setting itself up as a holiday for all generations. And one of the subtle messages is that slavery is also a personal thing, in that we all will at some time in our life have our own personal exodus from Egypt. The Seder is the main way, or is one of the main ways that the holiday is celebrated. And during the Seder, what we will do is have a festive meal and recount the story of the Exodus from Egypt. The vehicle is Vidui Bikurim. It's in the Chumash, where the Jewish people are commanded to come to bring the first fruits of the year to the temple in a festive way, and make a declaration that they have indeed come into Israel, and these are the fruits of the land. It's a good land. And recall that our ancestors were in a very low state and were persecuted, and that they were redeemed by God with many miracles. Part of the observance is to eat foods that remind us of that, and they are summarized in a Seder plate. Now, the Seder plate has a zeroah, a roasted shank bone, and an egg. These are reminders of the Korban Pesach, which was a lamb roasted like the shank bone, and the Korban Chagiga. The egg represents the Chagiga, that we shouldn't confuse it with a genuine sacrifice. The idea of a Korban Chagiga is that it's meat that has become sanctified through having its blood poured on the altar in the temple. The main thing is the meat. You're supposed to have a nice meat meal that should be tasty and it should be plentiful. Then you have symbols of slavery, which are the horseradish and the lettuce, that they're specifically bitter to let us know that slavery is bitter. And then you have the charosis, which is a sweet paste that is made to resemble mortar. Remember, the actual building, that slavery involved building, manual labor, but the idea also is that labor, if it is purposeful, should also be sweet. That depending on who you're working for will change hard work from bitterness to sweet. The final one is the karpas, which is a vegetable. Parsley is popular, as is things like potatoes. There's any number of vegetables that are used, but these are to recall that Pesach is also a harvest holiday. That's when you have the wheat is cut on the first day of Pesach, first or second, I think it's the first. Again, it's going back to Vidui Bikormi, the idea of that Israel is a good land, and here is its produce. Part of the Seder is supposed to be musical and poetic. You have piyutim that are sometimes chanted, sometimes sung, as a way of expressing our joy that we have become a free people. It says in the Haggadah that if we had not been freed from Egypt, that we would still be slaves today. It's a subtle message that it could be that the choice for the Jewish people is to be the choiced nation and a nation of priests and a sacred nation. But if we, God forbid, do not choose that, the alternative is to be the lowest and the most oppressed as slaves. You also have 4 cups of wine that are drank in the Seder. It parallels a section of the Chumash where you have 4 languages of redemption, and we drink a cup of wine, so to speak, remembering each of those languages of redemption. There's a 5th cup, which is also part of the same verse, which says in the verses is that I will bring you into the land of Egypt. There's a debate about that line, that phrase, whether we should drink a cup of wine for it. So what we do is we set aside a cup of wine on the table, and that's called the cup for Eliyahu HaNavi. The idea is that Eliyahu HaNavi will come someday to bring the Mashiach, and then all these halachic questions will be decided, including this one. So to speak, we have this cup waiting for him, but it's also hints that he probably will say that we should drink that one as well. The Seder concludes with the phrase L'shana haba b'Yerushalayim, next year in Jerusalem. The idea is, even if we live in Jerusalem, that our freedom is really not complete as long as we have some sort of foreign domination over our heads. To a certain extent, we can look at that idea that to the extent that we are not really living up to our mission, we bring this foreign domination upon ourselves, and that ultimately the Mashiach will come and we will celebrate the festival of Pesach in the temple and in all its perfection in Jerusalem that is rebuilt.